Hello everyone, Amod here from the Target Common YouTube channel. In this video tutorial of Playwright playlist, we will learn very first locator of Playwright called getByRole. This getByRole locator has many concepts and terms which will be covered in two videos. This first video will cover basics of getByRole locator. So let's start with basics. So the term locator will be familiar to you if you have knowledge of other web automation testing tools like Selenium WebDriver, Cypress, Protractor, etc. So basically, locators are ways to locate and perform actions on a web element of a web page. And this is common in any web automation testing tool like Selenium, Playwright, or Cypress. So these automation tools provide built-in locators. Like Selenium WebDriver provides 8 different types of locators. Similarly, Playwright also provides 7 different types of built-in locators, and also it supports locators supported by other automation tools. That means we can use ID, CSS or XPath with Playwright as well. Playwright mentions that locators provided by Playwright are key to their auto-weighting and retriability features. And the major point about Playwright locators is that they are based on user-facing attribute. So what do we understand by user-facing attribute? As a human being, I can visualize this web page and understand that we have a header called Playwright Locator Practice Page. Then we have a text box to enter username, a text box to enter password, and we have a login button to click on. So these informations are user-facing information. That means by reading this placeholder or by reading this label, I can say that this is a username text box. Similarly, by reading this enter your password placeholder, I can identify this is a password text box. So it does not matter how we develop this web page, but what we show to end users, that is important. And Playwright locators are based on these features. So Playwright provides basically 7 locators: get by role, get by text, get by label, get by placeholder, get by alt text, get by title, and get by text ID. All the locators except first one is straightforward. But let's start with first one, which is get by role. And it says this locator is to locate by explicit and implicit accessibility attributes. So here we got multiple terms to understand: explicit and implicit accessibility attributes. If you click further on this link, it says this locator reflects how user and assistive technology perceive the page. For example, whether some element is a button or a checkbox. So I already explained that a user can easily visualize and identify element is a button or a checkbox. But think of users who has disabilities, like they cannot see properly, or they cannot hear, or they cannot move their hands. So obviously, who cannot see the page, they cannot understand where username or which field is password, or this is a radio button or checkbox. They need some way to understand the web page. So for that, there are assistive technologies like screen reader, which will help people with disabilities to understand the web page and use it. You must have heard about accessibility testing, which is performed to ensure that a website or web application is usable by anyone. Anyone means any user with disabilities or without. If you're not aware of it, then it is a good topic to explore and learn about it. Now, these assistive technology can work only if our website or any web application follows some rules. Just for example, on this practice web page, if I don't keep label or placeholder, then it is very difficult for us to identify which is username or which is password field. So basically a web page should provide details so that their website or their web elements can be informative. Same thing applies for assistive technology. They will be looking for some attributes in these web elements to identify. And for this, we have W3C technical specification. W3C is responsible to make web applications better. So, Web Accessibility Initiative Accessible Rich Internet Applications, which is called WAI-ARIA, is a technical specification published by World Wide Web Consortium which is commonly known as W3C, and it specifies that how to increase the accessibility of a web page, in particular dynamic content and user interface components developed with Ajax, HTML, JavaScript, and related technologies. So basically, W3C provides guidelines to make any website accessible. Now let's understand few more terms. ARIA, which is Accessible Rich Internet Applications. So ARIA is a set of rules and attributes that define ways to make web content and web application more accessible to people with disabilities. It provides a way to add semantic to HTML elements, enabling them to convey roles, states, properties, and relationships that are essential for accessibility. Let me give you some example. When we create any web element using HTML, we put some attributes which gives more information about the web element. Like if you want to disable any text box, then we can use disable attribute, or we use ID or name to give some unique names, or we add class attribute to add CSS. Following the same approach, there are roles and attributes which are set to web elements to identify that web element and their properties or states by assistive technology. Now let's understand about ARIA rule. So it defines the function or purpose of an HTML element to assist technologies like screen reader to understand the type of element they are interacting with. Example, button, text box, heading, text box. So when we create any text box, we need to define role, which will say whether it is a text box or it is a button, so that a screen reader can understand, okay, this is a text box or this is a button, and they can convey the same information to user with disabilities. Then next topic, ARIA attributes. So it provides additional information about an element's state, properties, or relationship of elements in a way that is essential for screen readers and other accessibility aids. Examples, area label, area labeled by, area expanded. In the last term, we have accessible name. The accessible name refers to visible text or description that can be used by assistive technologies to refer to an element. The accessible name is usually derived from visible text or area attributes. So we have a button with text on it. So whatever we see on the button, that is visible text, and that can be accessible name as well. So that a screen reader can understand, okay, there is a button with text submit, and they can convey the same information to user with disabilities, and they can understand what it is. So now you might be thinking why Playwright is using these attributes. It might not be present in all the websites. So this locator might not work everywhere. It is true that many websites might not be using these standards, but many web elements have implicitly defined rules, which I will show you in some time. And the another reason I can see for Playwright to use these user-facing locators is to prevent defect leakage. If I inspect this login button, so we have ID and also we have some custom attributes. So obviously we can locate this login button using its ID, or we can create XPath or CSS and we can perform action on this. But suppose these attributes are same, but the text of this login button is changed because of some overriding of configuration or anything. Then your script will work, but basically it is overlooking a bug. So by using these kinds of locators, we can ensure whatever is shown to end users, that is correct. Further, it says when locating by role, you should pass the accessible name as well, so that the locator pinpoints the exact element, because we might have multiple text boxes on a web page, but using the accessible name we can identify exact web element so that Playwright can perform action. So here we have h3, which is a header, then we have label, then we have input is within label, which is subscribe, then we have a button with text submit. So to use this getByRole locator, we need to call page.getByRole, which is obvious, and then first argument we need to pass role. So h3 or h1 or any header is a heading, and then we are passing accessible name, which is sign up. So you can see the text between h3 tags. Similarly, we have one input element where type is checkbox. So we are using this rule and then we are passing name as subscriber. Similarly, for button, rule will be button and name will be submit. Here it says role locators include buttons, checkboxes, heading, links, list, tables, and many more, and follow W3C specifications for area role, area attributes, and accessible name. All these terms I have already explained. Now, note that many HTML elements like button have an implicitly defined role that is recognized by the role locator. That means for common web elements, we don't need to mention role explicitly. Now you might be thinking how to get role names properly. Maybe I don't know whether it is checkbox or CB, or it might be BTN or anything else. Suppose I want to get the role and accessible name for this username text box. So I'm going to inspect this username text box first, and at right hand side you can see these arrows. Click on that. We see one tab accessibility. Click on that. Now you can see data related to accessibility for this username text box. If you come down, you can see role is text box and name is username colon. So this is little tricky. For text box, we have the name which is label. Here you can see label. If I remove this label, then what will be my accessible name for this username text box? So let me right click and delete element. Now if you see here, role is still text box, but the name has been changed to enter your username, which is actually placeholder value of input text box. Let me edit this and remove the placeholder as well. So this time you can see role remains text box but name is empty. Now let's see for this radio button mail. Let me inspect it and expand this, select input. Now you can see role is radio, no radio button or RB, and name is mail. And you can see this name is coming from the text between label text. Similarly, if we inspect this drop down, then you can see its role is combo box and name is select your country. Okay, so now enough of theory. Let's use this locator and we are going to see only basic usage. Advanced usage we'll see in the next video. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and here I have already created a basic script to load my HTML page. So this is the same page. I want to enter username. So inspect it, get the role and name. So to use this locator, obviously start with await, then page dot get by role. You can see all suggestions here. So my role is text box. So in double quotes, type text box. And if you don't pass accessible name, then it is going to identify all the text boxes and will throw error if you perform any action on that. That's why we need to give the accessible name. So for that, use comma and put an object and key will be name colon and pass the accessible name in double quotes or single quotes, whatever you prefer. So my accessible name is, let me copy it from here and paste it. And then I'm going to call fill method to type something. So let me use Amod. Let me save and run in UI mode. So let me open UI mode. So npx playwright test dash dash UI. So UI mode is open and let's run this test. Test is completed and if I go to after tab for this step, you can see Amod has been entered in my username text box. Now let's make a mistake, but before that let me on watch mode. Go to VS Code and let me make a mistake in passing role. Maybe instead of text box I'm just passing text. So you can see it started giving error because here we have all the possible role types, and if you don't pass out of those it will throw error. If you don't fix it here and still run it in the UI mode, you can see it is giving error already. It says after 30 seconds it is not able to locate element and it gets timeout. Okay, so that's all in this video. We have a lot of concepts about get by role coming up in the next video, but if you have any doubt, please comment on this video. If you really like my videos, please like, comment, subscribe and share with others. Thank you everyone.